The morning sun barely touched the Rocky Mountains of Afghanistan as Staff Sergeant Maya Delacroix adjusted her scope for what felt like the 100th time. The wind was picking up, and at 2,980 meters, even the smallest breeze could send her bullet off course by several feet. She had been in this position for 6 hours now, watching the compound below through her Barrett M82 sniper rifle. Before we dive in, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you enjoy stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button because tomorrow's episode is truly mind-blowing. Let's get started. Control, this is Overwatch. Target building is still quiet. No movement detected, Maya whispered into her radio, her voice barely audible even to herself. The small earpiece crackled back with static before a familiar voice responded. Copy that, Overwatch. SEAL Team Alpha is moving into position now. Hold your fire until we give the signal. Maya had worked with Navy SEALs before, but this mission was different. The target was a high-value terrorist leader who had been planning attacks on American soil. Intelligence suggested he was hiding in a fortified compound in the mountains, surrounded by at least 30 armed guards. The SEALs were tasked with getting close enough to capture him alive, while Maya provided overwatch from nearly 3 kilometers away. The problem was that nobody believed she could make the shot if things went wrong. At 2,980 meters, she would be attempting one of the longest confirmed kills in military history. The record stood at 2,430 meters, set by a British sniper in Afghanistan years earlier. What Maya was attempting was beyond what most considered physically possible. 3 days earlier, during the mission briefing, the doubt had been clear on everyone's faces. The SEAL team leader, Lieutenant Commander Jake Harrison, had studied the mission parameters with a frown that seemed permanently etched on his weathered face. "Look, I respect what you can do with that rifle, Sergeant," Harrison had said, his tone professional but skeptical. "But 2,980 meters, that's nearly 2 miles. At that distance, you're dealing with bullet drop of over 400 inches, wind drift that could push your shot 20 feet off target, and the Coriolis effect from the Earth's rotation. Even if you could calculate all of that perfectly, the margin for error is essentially zero." Maya had remained quiet during the briefing, used to this kind of reception. She was 28 years old, 5 feet 6 inches tall, and weighed maybe 130 pounds soaking wet. To most people, she didn't look like someone who could handle a .50 caliber sniper rifle, let alone make impossible shots with it. But Maya had something that couldn't be measured in pounds or inches. She had an almost supernatural ability to read wind, distance, and environmental conditions that had earned her the nickname Ghost Walker among her unit. The worst skeptic had been Sergeant First Class Tony Brennan, a veteran SEAL with 15 years of experience and an attitude to match. Brennan had taken one look at Maya's equipment and scoffed openly. "What is this bring your daughter to work day?" Brennan had said, loud enough for half the briefing room to hear. "This little lady thinks she's going to make a 3-kilometer shot with that antique. I've seen carnival games with better odds." Maya's rifle was indeed older than most of the equipment the SEALs carried. Her Barrett M82 had been with her for 8 years, through 3 deployments and countless missions. The stock was worn smooth from handling, and she had made dozens of modifications and adjustments over the years. To an outsider, it might look like an old, beat-up rifle, but Maya knew every bolt, every spring, and every imperfection in that weapon. It was an extension of herself. "Sergeant Brennan," Maya had replied calmly, her voice steady and professional. "This rifle has accounted for 147 confirmed kills across distances from 200 to 2,600 meters. Every modification you see has been tested and verified in combat conditions. I understand your concern about the distance, but I've run the calculations accounting for temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, wind speed, and direction at multiple elevations, bullet ballistics, and rotational drift. The shot is difficult but not impossible. Brennan had laughed, a harsh sound that filled the briefing room. Calculations? Lady, this isn't a math test. This is real combat with real lives on the line. You can calculate all you want, but when the bullets start flying and my team needs covering fire, your little equations aren't going to help if you miss. The tension in the room had been thick enough to cut with a knife. Commander Harrison had stepped in before things could escalate further, but Maya could see the doubt in his eyes, too. Even their commanding officer, Colonel James Mitchell, seemed uncertain about including her in the mission. Now, 6 hours into her Overwatch position, Maya pushed those memories aside and focused on the task at hand. Through her scope, she could see the SEAL team moving like shadows across the rocky terrain below. They were still over a kilometer from the target building, but already she could sense something was wrong. Control, this is Overwatch. I'm seeing movement on the north side of the compound. Looks like at least 6 tangos taking defensive positions. They might be onto you. Harrison's voice came back immediately, tight with concern. Copy that, Overwatch. We're seeing it too. Switching to contingency plan Bravo. Be ready for things to get hot. Maya adjusted her position slightly, checking her range cards and environmental readings one more time. The wind had shifted from southwest to west-northwest, dropping from 8 knots to 6 knots. Temperature was rising as the sun climbed higher, which would affect her bullet's trajectory. At this distance, even a 2-degree temperature change could alter the point of impact by several inches. The waiting was always the hardest part. Maya had learned long ago to control her breathing, to slow her heart rate, and to exist in a state of calm alertness that could be maintained for hours if necessary. She ate energy bars slowly, drank water in small sips, and never moved more than absolutely necessary. At this range, even the smallest movement could be detected by enemy spotters. At 10:37 a.m., everything went wrong at once. Contact, contact, we're taking heavy fire from multiple positions. Harrison's voice exploded through the radio, barely audible over the sound of automatic weapons fire. They were waiting for us. This was a trap. Through her scope, Maya could see muzzle flashes erupting from windows and rooftops throughout the compound. The SEAL team was pinned down behind a low stone wall, taking fire from at least 3 different directions. Smoke grenades had been deployed, creating a hazy gray cloud that made visibility difficult even for Maya's advanced optics. Overwatch, we need immediate suppressive fire on the main building, 2nd floor, east-facing windows. Harrison's voice was strained but professional. We've got at least 4 shooters up there with a clear line of sight on our position. Maya swung her rifle toward the building, quickly acquiring the windows Harrison had identified. Through the smoke and haze, she could barely make out the shapes of enemy fighters moving behind the concrete barriers. The distance readout on her scope confirmed what she already knew, 2,980 meters, the impossible shot. Control, this is Overwatch. I have eyes on multiple targets in the main building, but the range is extreme. Smoke and haze are affecting visibility. I can attempt the shot, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed at this distance. There was a pause filled with the distant sound of gunfire before Colonel Mitchell's voice came through the radio. Overwatch, you are cleared to engage. Take the shot. Maya's training took over. She controlled her breathing, slowing her heart rate to minimize any tremor in her hands. The crosshairs in her scope centered on the easternmost window where she could see the distinctive muzzle flash of an AK-47 firing in rapid bursts. Through the haze, she could barely make out the silhouette of the shooter. The mathematics of the shot ran through her mind like a computer calculation. Bullet drop at this range would be approximately 412 inches, requiring her to aim almost 35 feet above her target. Wind drift, accounting for the shifting conditions, would push the bullet approximately 18 inches to the east. The Coriolis effect, caused by the Earth's rotation, would add another 4 inches of drift to the right. Temperature and humidity adjustments, muzzle velocity variations, even the slight cant of her rifle position, all had to be factored into the equation. Maya made her final adjustments to the scope, took a deep breath, and slowly exhaled halfway. At the natural pause in her breathing cycle, she squeezed the trigger with the same gentle pressure she had practiced thousands of times. The Barrett M82 roared, the massive .50 caliber round leaving the barrel at over 2,800 feet per second. The recoil drove the rifle back against Maya's shoulder with tremendous force, but she was already working the bolt action to chamber another round while tracking the bullet's flight path through her scope. For what seemed like an eternity but was actually only 3.5 seconds, the bullet traveled through the air. Maya watched through her scope as it arced high over the valley, following the precise trajectory she had calculated. At this distance, she could actually see the bullet's vapor trail as it cut through the morning air. The impact was devastating. The .50 caliber round struck the enemy fighter center mass, the massive kinetic energy instantly neutralizing the threat. Through her scope, Maya saw the muzzle flash from that window stop abruptly. "Holy Mother of God!" Brennan's voice came through the radio, filled with disbelief. Did she actually make that shot? But Maya was already acquiring her next target. 2 more shooters were visible in the adjacent windows, still pouring automatic fire down on the trapped SEAL team. She worked the bolt action smoothly, chambering a fresh round and adjusting her point of aim for the second target. The second shot followed 18 seconds later, and then a third. Each time, Maya made minute adjustments for the changing wind conditions and the slight variations in range to different parts of the building. Each shot required its own precise calculation, its own perfect execution. "Overwatch, this is Alpha 1. Harrison's voice came through the radio, now filled with amazement. "All targets in the main building are neutralized. I don't know how you did it, but you just saved our lives. We're moving to extract the primary target now." Maya maintained her position, continuing to scan for threats as the SEAL team advanced on the compound. Through her scope, she could see them moving efficiently from building to building, clearing rooms and securing the area. The primary target, the terrorist leader they had come to capture, was taken alive without further resistance. 2 hours later, as the extraction helicopter disappeared over the mountain peaks, Maya finally began packing her equipment. Her hands were steady as she broke down the Barrett M82, cleaning each component with the same methodical precision she brought to everything else. The radio crackled one last time as she prepared to leave her position. It was Sergeant Brennan's voice, and for the first time since she had known him, it carried a note of genuine respect. "Overwatch, this is Alpha 3. I owe you an apology, and I owe you a drink when we get back to base. What you did today, I've never seen anything like it. 3 confirmed kills at nearly 3,000 meters in combat conditions. You didn't just make impossible shots, you made them when it counted most." Maya smiled as she shouldered her pack. Alpha 3, this is Overwatch. No apology necessary. We all did our jobs today, and I'll take that drink but make it a coffee instead. I don't drink alcohol. As she began the long hike back to the extraction point, Maya reflected on the day's events. The doubters would always be there, questioning whether someone like her belonged in this elite world of special operations. But today she had proven once again that skill, preparation, and dedication mattered more than size, gender, or the opinions of others. The 3 shots she had fired would be recorded in military history as among the longest confirmed combat kills ever made. But for Maya, they were simply 3 more entries in her logbook, 3 more successful missions in a career dedicated to protecting the soldiers who put their lives on the line every day. The mountain air was crisp and clean as she walked, and Maya allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Somewhere behind her, a team of Navy SEALs was flying home safely, their mission accomplished. That was all the validation she needed. The impossible shot had become possible through years of training, countless hours of practice, and an unshakable belief in her own abilities. As Maya often told herself, impossible was just another word for untested. Today, she had tested the limits of what was possible and proven that with enough skill and determination, even the impossible could be achieved. When the after-action reports were filed and the commendations were written, the official record would state that Staff Sergeant Maya Delacroix had successfully engaged 3 enemy combatants at a range of 2,980 meters, directly contributing to the success of a high-value target capture mission. But the real story was about more than just marksmanship. It was about proving that excellence comes in many forms, and that the most dangerous opponent is often the one who has been underestimated. The SEALs had said it couldn't be done. The sergeant had mocked her equipment. But when the moment came, when lives hung in the balance and the impossible shot was the only option, Maya Delacroix had delivered with the precision and professionalism that defined her entire military career. The 2,980-meter spotter mark had indeed silenced all doubts, speaking louder than any words ever could.